I can start a little earlier, and things look like they're starting to show up. So hopefully I'm streaming on 3 platforms. And what you did was you clicked on this video to listen or wanted to know what I put in the title or in the thumb, how to edit the Bible book into new order. What I've done, well, here, let me show you something here before I get carried away. I just did a breakdown on this bishop here, and I want you to listen to him tell you Jesus, the way the church fathers taught him as a myth.
The early church, Ratzinger said this in an earlier book, opted for logos over mythos. Very interesting.
Yeah.
It opted for logic, philosophy if you want, over the mythological tradition in explaining Jesus. It opted for logic, philosophy if you want, over the mythological tradition in explaining Jesus.
Okay, now there you have a bishop admitting that the first church fathers considered Jesus, teaching Jesus as a myth. Their teachings are what's known as doctrines, and they don't want you to literally read the book literally, to interpret it literally. Well, I got his news for this guy. These are the books that I'm putting together to have one long book. And this will be only about like Genesis and all the kings, and then the prophets that have text about the kings, and then get into adding Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John to this assembly of text, and we'll have from front to back or beginning to the end of the text about Jesus our King in heaven. Now, what I found was the hidden formats, and anybody can actually put Psalms 1 through 8 on their computer, get rid of the punctuation, get rid of the numbers, and find the shortest verses you can. And then when you do that maybe 2 or 3 times, things will start appearing like they need to be put into groups. And you'll see that these groups are like the end of the subject, like a paragraph. And then they have 2 of them that'll hook together, that'll become like a larger paragraph. And what I found is that they're using 2 major words. Now this is me adding this, our Creator's name here, but that's because I've been editing these for books for probably close to 30 years now. And I connect them with the least amount of words, and that's how the formats end up being the way I have them now. What I'm doing is I'm going through and correcting the text or fine-tuning it to be more truthful. The book is getting closer and closer to the end, where this is going to be this next time, well, this time that I'm going through, I'm putting on the names of what's in the text below it as starting like chapters, and that way I will have the table of contents built. I'm also adding in pictures of maps. I've already done like 82 maps. So that under this format, and not our Creator's hidden formats, that I worked on that book, our Creator's hidden formats, for probably 5 years. A lot of more 10-hour days, 7 days a week for probably a good part of 5 years that way. But what I wanted to do, so nobody else could go through here and find out what I'm calling is the first writer's formats and how they wrote in this style. So since you're new here, I'm going to put up the 12 commandments just to show you that there are 12. When you study Exodus 20 verses 1 through 17, this is the text you'll have over here. Whoops. My mouse doesn't go over on that. Okay, but you can see there's 12 there. So there's a lot of deceiving people in the text. That's why it's so hard to read. But when you start seeing this format, you have to understand this is the way they wrote probably 2,800 years ago. Okay, so when they were overtaken by, well, I'll call mankind, true atheists, okay, not the false atheists, just somebody saying there's no such thing as our creator. It's their belief and understanding of how they become a god and ascend into the heaven, which is what we know as the stars now. So they are, when they get caught up in the technology today, they have a hard time explaining their sex practice to have this becoming a god. I've done over 300 and some odd videos. So, in fact, I think the last video I did, a guy who was Hindi, I went through a lot of text for him, I think almost for the first, or probably for 45 minutes with him about the beliefs of different religions are really sex practices around the world. Where this text here, proving that there's first writers formats, means that they started with somebody else's text and they have corrupted the text. That's why it's so hard to read. So when you get it cleaned up, just like I said, try this first 8 Psalms, and you'll find that it might take you maybe 35-40 minutes before you're sitting there looking at these type of formats. You do have to get rid of words because they're just going to be blatantly stuck there that they don't connect with it. So with the other words. Now, I left off here earlier this afternoon. There was a group of text in this area here that was reading out of place, so I had to stop the video. I found where it belongs, updated all my books or text that I'm going to be putting out to say this is the text, how it's going to be put in order, and I needed to move that in that group to another group area when I assembled it. So that way I don't have to have 65 different notes saying I moved this because I put it here wrong the first time. But this is the next time you'll see this text, it should have completed. We'll have all the blue gone, all the corrections that I make in the text. As you can see, that this is my editing that I'm getting ready for. But I think I'll just continue here and take down the 12 commandments, and I'll continue. So let's see here. I do a lot of mumbling, so if you have a comment, put a comment. Post your comment, and I will get to it ASAP. Okay, now when a wife, this is right, this is what's happening, is that this is going to be, it's starting to give all the laws. So I put all the laws together. So this one paragraph here, or one chapter, is going to have all the labeling of the laws. What I found out when I made the last book, they had a limit on how many chapters you could have. And I think after 125 chapters, it didn't go. You could make them, but it wouldn't put them into the table of contents. So I've had to redo that for a while, a couple times to get that right. But this time I'm aware of the problem, so I'm stacking things as to group all of them together as one chapter. I figured out how to make it easier when it gets into a book form. Or when I get it into a PDF, I'll probably label each one of these paragraphs. And then that way you should be able to do a search for the number to be able to communicate to other people that are reading this book as well. But right here, Males for War. So let me see here. I should put A1, and I'm going to put that in this way so I can search up, and hopefully this will go a little bit faster doing it that way. It's got Males for War, statutes for a male's birth, When a wife gives birth and bears a male, she will be unclean for 7 days, like the days of her period. And on the first day, his foreskin will be circumcised by the priest to be mine. This is the 8th day. So this has got to be corrected. But that's why it's so confusing to people when they read the text the way it is. They have many different subjects having different answers of a subject. Example, your text will say Jesus was buried for 3 days and 3 nights, and yet we know that when his body died on the cross, he ascended into heaven, and they've seen souls from the ground, from the graveyard, ascend into heaven. So he was in heaven, his soul went to heaven. He did not, his body did not stay in the ground for 3 days, because the next day, Mary went to go see Jesus as to put more spices around his body before they could bury him, and his body wasn't there. So that's pretty big when you look at the text like that and try to actually figure out the truth. They give you 2 stories about a lot of things. His foreskin will be circumcised by the priest to be mine. This is my statute, to be a descendant from Abraham and live in my nation. Now this I've already have noted that I want to make a note to connect it to the text. So I think if I note it like that, I will be able to get to that text above. I'm putting in markers that I can put, like these could be bookmarks, to where you can click on it to see the AA will be the original text, and then this would be, oops, the smaller AA. When you go up, you want to go to the beginning, you go up there. When you come back, it'll be bookmarked to this. It'll bring you back here in the book. I'm really trying to make this book as detailed as I can, or as helpful. I'm trying to keep all the words to be easy enough for a 12-year-old to understand without going to the pagan dictionary we have today. So okay, when the days for her purification are completed, their son will be brought to the priest and offer up a pigeon or a turtle dove like a sin offering. Like a sin offering, that means it has to be offered up on their altar. So let's see here. Yes, she has to be unclean for 7 days. Then she can appear to have this done on the 8th day. Okay. Eat no blood. You are not to eat any blood from a bird or an animal, or any person who eats blood will be cast from my nation. Now, this, I can't do this here. Although, yes, I remember now what I wanted to do with this. And this would be another AA and AA, oops. Cast from his nation is very important. So I want to make sure that there are things for reasons to cast them out of his nation. And this is very big. So those in England who have blood pudding, you'd be kicked out of his nation. You'd be known as one who does not obey our Creator. You may eat the ox, ram, goat, deer, gazelle, and like any animal that has, and like any animal over here that has a divided hoof and eats the green. You are not to eat those that eats the green that is not divided. That would be a pig, ham, things like that, ribs. You may eat from the water. You may eat from the water that has fins and scales. Without is unclean, like catfish, shrimp. You may eat birds, but not like the eagle, vulture, or falcon, and all the grouping with wings are unclean, and you will not eat their dead. This is because these don't eat the green. Okay, so that, I got that wrong. What happened here? Okay, this was supposed to be here, and I was going to say foods clean and unclean. So now I got to say here, up here, paste this one, save, Um, what am I doing? Okay. Let me put a marker here so I can get back. Um, come on. Oh, I'm in the wrong. Okay. I found hidden formats in the Bible. And these, I'm claiming, they are the first writer's formats. Okay. Now, this is the format that you see here. And what I found is this using two major words and connecting them with the least amount of small words to connect them in the shortest verses possible. And in a 3-verse format, this first verse becomes a statement where these two together read as a sentence that define the statement. Okay. And this would be known as a small paragraph. That's what I call it today. And then when two of them are closely put together, they become a larger paragraph. Then I've got a double space going through them. What I've done is found all these in these books in the Bible, and so I'm putting the text together in order as to be one book. Because they were writing their history on the fly, say that you have a book of Kings. Kings 1 and Kings 2 should have been about the kings of Judah and the kings of Israel, the two nations. And then you would have had what the king did and some more detail of what he had built, what his problems were when the prophets come to him, a complete history of that king. And then the Chronicles would have been trying to put them together in order of when the kings meshed with each other. For example, here are the kings here meshed together in my timeline, and there's events that happen between them. And it's not so much that this means 38 years, because you can see I got 35 here. It's that these events with these other kings happen about my estimate in these 38 years by going back and forth. So that would have been Chronicles. Then you would have had the private books of prophets, because you weren't a prophet until something actually happened that you said. Then they'd put you in the book. So you'd have a lot of people claiming to be prophets. They would have those books, and the ones that didn't come true, they'd throw out, and the ones that came through, they would then start saying, this is the book from Daniel, this is the book from Isaiah, and things like that. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. There is actually in, Jeremiah 36, if you search the word columns, there was a scribe who thought the text from Isaiah was very important that he should hear. They went in and told this king, he happened to be an evil king though, but the text will say, after he read 3 or 4 columns, and now you can see this text is in a column, and then he threw it into the fireplace. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. And right now I'm kind of editing it to, so I got to go down one more. Yeah, now I'm back right here. So that is what I'm doing. And actually I'm putting in like bookmarks, maps, prophecies. The words like you see are in purple, all capitalized. These are our Creator's words. Jesus will be in red, because they don't need to follow proper English. You'll find that, you'll see that I don't capitalize the first letters at all. So people that are important, I will capitalize the first letter. That way the reader will know whether that person is good or bad when they're reading the text. I don't want to give a capital letter to like the Egyptian king type of thing. So their names will be in little letters, or like Nebuchadnezzar, although he become a very he started following the Hebrew or our Creator's laws. In fact, he changed the calendars that they had at that time to our Creator's calendar. The proof I can say of that is in the 1611 preface to the Bible. There's this story here that says that, whoops, not that one, down here. That's called Gregory the Divine. Now this here, the first Roman emperor corrected the calendar and ordered the year according to the course of the sun, and they actually put a capital S on sun. That's to note Ra, the sun god. But what it means is, what calendar were they on? And when you read Daniel, you'll find that he started proclaiming our Creator as the God from the nation, the Israelis that were taken captive, is the highest God. He's the God of all gods, is the way he described it. But you can see that here, they're all happy. The 1611 translators of the Bible were all happy that they got rid of our Creator's way of understanding the calendar year. And that's actually the summer solstice is the first day of the year. I hope that lets you know what I'm doing here. But it's a slow trudge through this, and I missed that. So better go back and correct that. And oops. Oh, I get this up here. Right there. Now it's eat locusts. All the winged insect that walked with four are unclean. If you wanted to try this yourself to find the hidden formats, they're very easy to do. All of Daniel goes into a 3-verse format like this, but Psalms I would suggest 1 through 8. Just to remove the punctuation, the numbers, and try to find the shortest verses, and then try to keep editing, and then they'll talk to you how they do it. What is your God and what do you believe in? Okay. Our Creator made me see him. Okay. So now it tells me you searched under atheist and you're an atheist to find me. What you don't know is what a true atheist is. So let me show you some text in the Bible and explain what a true atheist is. See, here in Malachi 2:11, Judah, this is a nation, has married the daughter of a foreign god. So that means this is a goddess, married the goddess or the daughter of the foreign god. Ra, the sun god that I just showed you, is all in capital letters, and it's the moon goddess is his daughter. So how do you marry her? Well, you have to sit and meditate to have a sex-like experience with her. Yet, and how do I know all this? I've done this, so I know what I'm talking about. This is why monks, nuns, and Buddhists are single. You can't have this practice and then go back and release your seed from your body. you have to keep it within. And the side effect of keeping it in and having sex with her, there's this thing of actually living longer. But this bubble, if you think with from your forehead to your hand and go back and forth a few times slowly, just down your arm, back and forth, you're going to feel like a hollow ball move along your arm back and forth. This is what they use as an energy inside their body. It becomes smaller in size, and it allows them to heal themselves. So that's the practice that they've had in all the religions around the world. You're an atheist, but you don't know this practice. Right now, if you look on your television ads, you will see that there is a letter X in almost every product and every advertisement you see right now. Why it's happening at this time is because once a year, a male's maleness will retract inside his body. And what happens, he becomes like this. And you've seen this symbol. His maleness retracts inside his body like an animal. Now, this is in the zodiac and the sun and the stars, so you know how long these guys have been writing this stuff. This is the same thing, only a different animal. They've got it like a lion or a panther or something. But the thing here is this is on the Vatican wall, on the courtyard, on the Vatican wall. And this is what happens to a female. Her rosebud becomes like a 1.5 inch thin sword, looks just like a sword, and that happens for 3 days. And this retraction happens and comes back out in 3 days. So you're not an atheist. Okay, well, sorry about that. I thought you might have searched to find me, because I do have a lot of atheists come by, and it's like, who is your God and what God do you believe in? I guess I should ask you, do you read the Bible or don't read the Bible to get an understanding of where you're coming from? Because you could be a Muslim. Whoops. Oh, what did I do? Oh, man. Yeah, you're a Muslim. Okay. Well, this day that I was just explaining about happens on a crescent moon day. Okay. So here's the crescent moon in the Bible of long time ago. This is from like the 1880s. This Bible pictures were in the Bible, and it's talking about a crescent moon. Here they're tying, this is Ra, the sun god, ancient pictures here with this crescent moon. Crescent moon is on their goddess's forehead. This is Athena that you can go and see in Rome right now. So they've tied the crescent moon to this day that they have sex with a so-called female goddess, and once a year, example, Halloweeny time, is when it happens. So you'll see a lot of X's on your TV ads that is the new message to say that they're supposed to stop this practice. This is the Buddhist way of putting the crescent moon, and this is that bubble I was talking about, and these 3 little dots here are the 3 drips that happen to come from your pituitary gland that you can hear. Drop 3, and then all of a sudden this bubble will start coming up the back, up your spine, to the top of your head, down your tongue, and down the front of your body, and disappears in your belly and goes into your spine again, goes around and around your body. This area that I'm talking about is called a middle kingdom. So if you see some Christian writers trying to deceive people, they'll call it the middle kingdom, but won't tell you what their sex practice is. But I've read the Quran twice, or once real good. Second time, I think I got 3/4 of the way through, and then I said, no, I understand there's too many things that if you read the text in the Bible, the Quran is just using names. Like when I say Abraham, and I can find Abraham in the Quran, let me go up here to Jesus. This is what's so important about Abraham in the Bible. This is when our Creator talked to him, changed his name from Abram to Abraham, and he's going to establish his covenant. Now, when you search the word covenant in the Quran, there's no definition. You have to go to the hadiths to find out what that is. But here, it's what these are promises that he's going to keep making over to Jacob, and then David, and then Daniel. That what's going to happen here is that he's going to make him exceedingly multiplied, have many descendants, in other words, and make nations from you, not of you, who from Abraham, and kings shall come forth from you. Okay? Now, we come down here to now verse 18:18, and it's down here, in him, a king, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. This means all the races will be blessed by this king. Now, we don't have the understanding of the king yet until we have Nathaniel, a prophet, talking to our Creator, and our Creator says and tell David, through your son's seed shall come forth a king, and I will give him a kingdom in heaven. That's the only sentence in the whole Bible that tells us why we will enter into heaven if we're obedient to our Creator. So, this is that verse of the promise of Jesus being our King, and all nations will bless him. But that isn't true in the Bible or in the Quran. When you come to Jacob, Jacob is given the same promise: through your son will come this king, and he'll bless the whole nation. So if this Abraham, this Jacob, this Jesus, this king that allows us into heaven, is the teaching of the difference, where the Bible tells you and explains to you why these promises are given to each of these men over time. You go to the Quran, and they're just using the name to say the name, because you would all have to tie it to Jesus as being the king to allow you into heaven. There's a story about Mary, how she goes into the room with Zacharias. Now, Zacharias was a high priest at the time when, just before Jesus was to appear on the earth, that this holy room where he was meeting with Mary in your book, in the Quran, can't be true, because our Creator, when he set up this room that you'd meet and talk to our Creator, who shines above the mercy seat, he had a tent made, and this tent has a meeting room with him, where the priests go in and literally talk to him. And you can only have men going inside this courtyard. they had guards standing on the outside. So there's no way that never a woman would be able to go into this meeting room, let alone Mary, who's probably only 12 years old when she's married to Joseph. So there's that type of thing that I just know that with the symbolic meaning of the Quran, and the way they have it tied to the crescent moon, and I just told you about the retraction in the body, and if you ever seen the horse that Muhammad rode into Jerusalem, and yet, as you know, the history about his house in Jerusalem, it was completely tore down flat, so he couldn't have been there. But the horse, you'll notice, is a female goddess image, and his body is just saying retraction. They do this, look, Satan's out there, he's deceived everybody. So the thing here is I think Muslims are closer to our Creator than the Asian world. And I think when you study the text, especially the text that I'm going to be putting out, it will. Actually, I've been sent by our Creator. Our Creator made me see Him 8 times, and that's what I'm doing here. Is I'm teaching Jesus truthfully. Jesus is not a Trinity. That is known as a doctrine taught by the Catholic Church. A doctrine is them taking a bunch of sentences. Don't read it literally. We're going to tell you what all these sentences mean, and then we're going to say there's such as a Trinity. But there is no such thing as a Trinity. In my YouTube, well, let me see. I've even got it here. Jesus teaches us what is Holy Spirit here. And this, oops, I got it. Okay. These 2 verses, Jesus tells us that it's not you who speaks. Did you just? Yes, I did. 8 times. Actually, if you go onto my YouTube channel, the descriptions that I have, I usually put that as my experience or how our Creator made me see Him in a link. It's called Self-Proof of Afterlife. Let me see if this will actually, because sometimes when I post this, if you see that link, you can click on that link, and then you'll hear me explain how you can visit the abyss, which is another dimension of time and space. You can talk to those that are dead, that are now there in the abyss, and everybody in the abyss does not believe our Creator exists, so they will tell you they're the gods. So that's okay. Our Creator makes me see Him as a light. Okay, let me explain a few things. Jesus transfigured white, okay? The angels were shining in their glory. The angel was white when they went to look for Jesus in the tombs. Our Creator, when He had Moses make his tent for meeting, He made it out of goat hides for the roof and ram hides for the outside. Those are white, okay? Then when this white all the time, when they built the house for our Creator, they made that out of granite blocks, and there is a white granite quarry near Hebron, and near Jerusalem is a red quarry, granite quarry. So they used the white granite from Hebron to build his house. Now, the floor that you see, what they call the Temple Mount, you can't say Temple Mount. A temple is where they keep a pagan idol, like I showed you of Athena there. It's in the Temple of Athena. We learn that when we read about Israel fighting the Philistines, and then they lost, and they took the chest that our Creator had them make to hold the 12 commandments in. They took the commandments out. They went, and the Philistines actually got that, and then they put it into the temple with their God. So you can learn that there was temples way back then as well. Now, what happens to me is that when you're in a REM state, you're actually in another dimension of time and space, but you don't remember everything you've dreamt. You know you've had a dream, but you only can remember glimpses. And right now we just kind of like, oh, well, it doesn't matter to me. That practice that I've got there in that link will allow you to remember everything that happens out there. The first time our Creator made me see him, he showed me himself as a white light, okay? A white light. And then an arm came out, and I, at 7 years old, was in the palm of his hand, and he gave me more visions of what I'm doing today, but I don't know if I explained that part in that video, but the other times were that when I knew how to go into and remember all my dreams to make me absolutely aware of what's going on out there, I started fighting them. And out there, yeah, they are bigger, they are stronger, but I didn't care. So I was battling them anyway, and I was talking to them and praising our Creator out there. And then they tried to kill me. And what they do is they try to freeze the body or freeze your soul. And what happens is my head will go jerked back, and I'm looking up, and I'm seeing our Creator's light again, and I'm flying up to our Creator. I've actually seen the white wings on my back as I'm looking straight up, and your head is kind of like there's no bone structure in your soul. So my head went like this to see our Creator. Okay, so the wings I only seen. You ever seen? We have white herons, where they have these great big wings that go out like this. And that was the tip that I seen. And he shows himself as this white light. Now, if I just searched, let me see here. If I search his light, and I want to search down, pull this off to the side. Here is the text talking about how he shines forth above his mercy seat. Okay, so he's just showing himself as this light. This is how the priests are talking about our Creator. Okay, so if I come down here, this would be from a priest, how he goes in, no, deliver me from my enemy, those who persecute me. Shine on your servants, save by your kindness. Save me by your kindness. Okay, now let me go here. Here, again, by your right hand, your light of your presence, you do favor for us. So there's many times that it does show up. Here's a priest when he walked into the tent, into his holy room, and he bows with reverence to him. Okay. So this is to his light. Here, show me his light. I'm a servant for Yahweh, and show his light to me. There's many verses that say these things. I had to add that one in there to complete it. Here, this is Isaiah talking about, who are sitting in darkness will see his light, and his light will shine upon them. So this is actually, I've got to correct this. This is our Creator's light. And what happens when I told you about those sitting and meditating, that's what these are doing, this meditation of sitting in darkness. And they will see his light, okay? So there's many verses that tell us our Creator is a being of light. In fact, when we look at Genesis, and this is how the text comes out, that if you want to know about our Creator, how everything exists for us, our Creator hovered in his emptiness, okay? In his emptiness, our Creator hovered within. Then our Creator said, "Let there be my light," and there was light. This light is heaven, and our Creator separated his light from his darkness, meaning he created heaven. So when you hear about those that have this near-death experience, say they heard their family members talking from a light, this is heaven, that they were actually being said that this is heaven, this is where you're going to go when you die. This is it, to enter into heaven. But then our Creator said, "Let there be expanses in his emptiness." And what he did was he sent part of himself back into his emptiness, and we have the universe. That's why everything is perfect. When you start examining everything, everything is perfect. That's because it's part of our Creator. And even evil is perfect. You cannot find an error. Everything is perfect. That's why, but these emptiness is separated, and then the expanses he gathered, we know them as galaxies today. Then because when they gathered, they started forming the stars and the expanses of heaven. Because you got to understand, when you are in a very dark surrounding, when you go out, let's say 20 miles away from all city lights, you look up, you can actually see Andromeda, the galaxy, the way it's swirling. It's visibly seen. So they knew that this would have been one of the expanses collapsed. But then our Creator created the sun and the moon. And then when it gets down to how he created everything, and then comes up to Adam and Eve, the tree of knowledge was, oops, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to close it. So I guess I got off your subject there, but yes, our Creator shows himself as a being of light. So, oops, I forgot to go. I don't know why that doesn't stay there. Down. Okay. Eating locusts, that's where I was at. But you won't find explanation of or how one knows our Creator in the Quran. I would suggest, though, that you do click on that video and do what it says. I started doing this when I was like 12 years old. I was trying to figure out how my seed was being released from my body. And it took me a couple years to figure out the sun and moon's energy and how it plays on the body. And then I developed this where now anybody male or female. Once they read it, they'll have to have two females help them do this, but it's safe enough to go talk to them. I say it's safe enough for a 13-year-old, but you will have a complete witnessing of yourself of the afterlife. And that's what makes me different than everybody. That's why I can call myself a prophet and say that this has never been taught anywhere, for you to actually visit another dimension of time and space, know you have a soul, because that's what you're like when you're there. You can talk to those that are dead. They'll call you the gods. I tell you how you can actually strongly think as you're going back to sleep, after I tell you to go to bed early and wake up at this time, and then concentrate as you fall back to sleep, because once your fingers move, you will be there and you're going to remember everything. It's going to feel like it's only like about 40 minutes long, but when you look at the time when you wake up, you know you've been there for about 3 hours, maybe a little longer than 3 hours. But you will wake up and you will have this experience of self-proof that without doubt you are going to exist after your body dies. Your soul cannot be killed. Okay? So that's what the Bible teaches. And I don't find, there's not a verse I can point to in the Quran that says why we enter into heaven, because they don't want to use Jesus as the king, your king in heaven. Yet Jesus is our Savior and our King. Actually, what I know about the Quran, I think it's these Roman Catholic bishops tried to say that, look, we got this text here and we're so in control of all people and making them believe us with trick words, that we can do this to the Arabs in the lower countries. And I believe it was the church, Roman Catholic Church, that actually started all this, known as the Quran. If you look at your earliest domed meeting rooms that you go to, I don't know, mosque, yeah, you will find that they were built right next to a church. So you know that doesn't sound right either. Yes, I know that. I've talked to Muslims all over the world. I've been doing this. I was on the internet before there was like 9 million web pages. So I have had a computer. I've been on the internet. Every time there's a platform out there, I go and find Muslims, and I go and find Buddhists, Hindus. I find everybody, and I start talking to them, because I know about all their religions and how they try to trick everybody. So the thing here is you have to understand, only the Bible it says about one creator talking to people. Okay? Plain and simple. All the other books, even the Quran, because you don't have the words, I said this. You have we said. And when it gets to this we said, that isn't being able to say one creator like what's in the Bible. But that's what, when you study religions around the world in a school for like philosophy or theologian schools, that's why they teach all the other religions. But when you're talking about the Bible, you have to say the God of Abraham. So you have to have the understanding that there's one creator and he talks to man. The rest, they just don't do this singular enough to say, I said this is going to happen, and these things, and then he's going to come and visit and talk later. I know that when you look at the Quran, and I've studied how the book was put together and how that one guy took over, I don't know, what was it, 600,000 verses that he found? Who told him who to put what in order? And how can you say that, because I noticed the verse would say, in the book. How did he know where to put it in the book when he was writing or putting this book together? And then, what was it? They say that Alicia had a goat eat the book. That means it wasn't kept in safety. It just kind of like, they're just making up myth stories when they do that. Yeah, I know. Let's put it this way. The Christians think there's a Trinity, okay? And I know that if you, what's that place, the Speaker's Corner in England, I was there when that started coming up on the internet 15 years ago. So the thing here is they always argue there's a Trinity, and here are the words that prove that there is no Trinity. Okay? Here Jesus is saying, it is not you who speaks, but it is the Holy Spirit. Now, the Spirit, why is it Holy Spirit? Like it's a different subject altogether. Because here he says, the Spirit of your Father who speaks, or your breath, his breath or his words, they would be holy, all right, but it would be his holy breath or his holy words. So it is not you who speaks, but it would be the Holy Spirit. And here's two examples. Zacharias and Elizabeth, filled with his holy breath or his words, and he prophesied. To prophesy meaning you don't know what's going on. You're speaking about what he was speaking about, what John's life is going to be. So it has to be the Holy Spirit as our Creator's words coming out of their mouth. And when you say it's our Creator's words coming out of their mouth, or Elizabeth's mouth, where they have the word said, I had to credit it to prophesy, was filled with the Holy Spirit, and she cried out with a loud voice. So here they're even they're disrespecting Jesus by calling him a fruit, okay, in the womb, where I corrected your son in your womb. How would she know that we are blessed, this gift of our Creator telling us we can enter into heaven, that our King is in your womb? She couldn't have known that. That's why it said she was filled with the Holy Spirit and she prophesied. Then we have two more verses from Jesus telling you that our Creator will teach you on that very day what you ought to say. That's to the disciples to help them teach Jesus as they would start wandering around. And Jesus says, I cast out demons by the words from our Creator. Okay, he wouldn't have called our Creator God. The word God is a title, not his name. Jesus would have known his name. The Hebrews had a 4-letter lettering for the meaning of our Creator's name. When the Muslims are correct. The Bible is really, really corrupt. Let me show you how corrupt it is. Nope. That's when I got Hebrew scholars coming over, talking to me here, telling me things differently here than what I know. Oh, it's under titles. I haven't done this in a while. This is the Hebrew name, okay, or the letters that we use for our Creator's name. And they define it down here. And what they did was put in 2 titles for his name, okay? And I added them numbers up. That's 6,825 times they removed his name from the book that we read today, known as the Bible. That's how many times they took out his name, okay? So now you can tell people that, look, it's so corrupt you don't even have our Creator's name in here. And you actually use 2 titles. And they have a footnote saying all capital letters, Lord and God, mean his name. Yet here, when I click over here and hit Lord, it's actually this title. It's this name. Right here is his name here on the Lord. But see, what they did was they put the name of God of Israel. What if this is the Savior from Israel? And these shouldn't be here. It just should be Yah. Yah is the name that they had for Jesus. Up here we learn that our Creator's name is spelled with an O. Hebrews didn't have no letter O. So anytime you see them saying our Creator's name with an O in it, just tell them, look, they didn't have no O's. When they show it with like these 4 letters with a W, they didn't have a W in the Hebrew language. So, yes, the book is so distorted and so corrupt, but it's my skill of our Creator's given me the knowledge to explain everything to you this way. By the way, they didn't have no J, O, or W, and yet they actually have the single letter O mentioned 1,096 times. So this is my explanation of why I use just these 2 letters, and you say it in Hebrew is a lot closer than what everybody else is doing. Oh yeah, here, you're gonna love these. You might want to get screenshots of this. So let's see here. Where are my words that mean? Okay. The Bible program that I have, if I click on it in English, it tells me the Hebrew word. And down here it tells me use it as the word which. But notice how many other times I use it for different words. Yet you won't find that in the text. You'll find that in your Hadith. And that is what they're doing. When they didn't have it written in the book, they wrote what it was supposed to mean. That's the problem that you have in the Hadiths. Because even when you start reading the Hadiths, there's good Hadiths and then there's bad Hadiths, okay? And I know you know that. So it's kind of like over the years, they put these books, they've tried to teach from, and then they needed to correct them again, and now they're saying, well, this is a good and this is a bad. But when you stop and think that the guy who put it together, what authority did he have to do to put it together? Why did he not use all the verses? Why didn't he put down saying, there's 20 that I found that say this, and this is, they had different verses or different wording, but I'm going to make it say this. So he's judged the verses that you're reading from, and that's the hard truth of how the book was made up. And if you think about it, Muhammad is out conquering the European continent. So the thing here is when did he have time to write? And how did he always send it back to Alicia for her to gather them together? And then who put the book together when he was there? So, but here I can show you that this Bible program shows you how many times this word which was used for all these words. And just like this word, so, it has a Hebrew word, and yet they changed the word which to mean so. Now, that, you might think, okay, well, look at how many times they used one word to mean all these words. Okay, now that's just jaw-dropping. So, yeah, okay, that's the guy who wrote it. Yeah, I haven't been on a Muslim chat board in a long time. But you get the idea of the corruption in the text. Let me show you some real good ones here. Okay, the word boy is actually used for the word girl once. A desert becomes a man's name 4 times. Now, I don't know how they get a desert, a name from there, but a dove becomes one guy's name, and it's so long it's not even funny. How'd they make that little word 3 different names? And even like the word a nation here, they made it into a guy's name, and I've never heard of this nation before. But that's the biggest corruption that I can show. That's why I try to teach everything I know to try to tell you that Jesus is our King in heaven. I've got Christians that come here and they argue with me over, like, listen to this guy here. This is a bishop. And I want you to listen very carefully, but because he's going to say that the early church fathers, when Rome first got together and took all the texts from Israel, the Israeli people, and say, we own it now, what they did to the text, listen to what he says.
The early church, Ratzinger said this in an earlier book, opted for logos over mythos. Very interesting.
Yeah.
It opted for logic, philosophy if you want, over the mythological tradition in explaining Jesus.
Over the mythological belief of Jesus. He knows the text is so corrupt. He tells you that you don't need to read it literally. You need to trust these priests to tell you that there's a Trinity and that the Trinity is not in the text. So, well, yes, I know when I know, I understand this, but when you stop and think of, he wrote this down, but if you ever said, how was it put in what order? Who put what in order? That's the big thing. So, it's kind of like, it's not a reasoned by logic how the book got put together. Where here in the Bible, you can see that they wrote the Chronicles of the King, or the Chronicles, which is meshing the kings together. They had books of the kings and what they did, and they had both kings from both nations. Then they had the prophets, and you see the prophets mentioning that they were sent to this king. So the whole text that I've got now, it is actually in order. When you see what I've done with Jesus, I took Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I threw out all kinds of crap for the simple fact that I know it's not true. Example, like in the beginning of Matthew that you read, it talks about the genealogy of Jesus. Yet you go into Luke and all of a sudden you find there's a second genealogy. Well, I said, you can't trust either one of them, so I'll throw it out. I don't need it. Now what does the text say? That's how I truthfully figured out what Jesus was saying. And then what I did is took all the stories, like stories, put them together, and the ones that verses I didn't need because they were doubling up, or some were said better than the other verse, I would use that verse. So I put those 4 books together, and now we have the order of Jesus, actually the last 7 days in Jerusalem. So, and how he did die on the cross, or his body died on the cross. Let me see, what do I want to go to here? It's in Jesus' text. Well, here, you've heard people say there's 10 commandments, right? Well, watch this. I'm going to pop this up for you. Right there's 12, but nobody's studied the text. It's actually Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 17, lists 12 commandments. And yet, how many Christians tell you they're 10? It just means they've never studied the text. They're too reliant on trusting other people and just repeating things like the Muslims, just repeating what they've been taught and not figuring out themselves of what the text says. So it's kind of like I am the first teacher of 12 commandments. I've been doing that for probably over 25 years now. So I have a lot of Christians come along and then they listen to me and then they walk away. I am probably the hardest person to subscribe to on the internet because I am teaching that there's things that just are so hard for people to understand. To say that one guy is doing this, how can he do this? This isn't what I've been taught. The church teaches it this way. But you just heard from a bishop how they taught Jesus as a myth, okay? And actually want to teach him now as a logos, which means from like theologians, scientists, mathematicians, they're trusting man's words of what Jesus means in man's words. That is so ridiculous to me, but that's what they want to take the church, move the church to. It'll take a couple hundred years for them to do that. But right now, once this is known, and I believe within the next couple years, what I'm doing right here will be worldwide. So, because what the book actually it's going to take about 6 hours to read, okay, for the full time to read it. But I have read this text that I put together easily 50, 60 times. And when I read about Jesus's teaching, example, this is the book for Jesus' teaching. And when I read this, and I've got all his words in red, and you can see this is from the book of Luke, chapter 33, or chapter 3, and it was verse 97, and then I had to put 93 below it to make sense out of it, and then I had to go to Matthew to get this verse. But when you read it and don't pay attention to these numbers, it reads like it's in order, and that's what's shocking when you do put all the books together. So this, when you read it from beginning to end, I still cry when I read this. I tear up big time when it gets to his crucifixion, because I am very aware who he is and how much I'm tied to him, and how I can't believe that that's what our Creator wanted him to die on the cross. That's because when you talk about Abraham killing Isaac, that's why our Creator said, I'm going to start my promise with you because you obey me. So the most obedient person that we have in the Hebrew text is Abraham. That's why he's so important. But Jesus goes one more step. He's going to let our Creator kill him the way our Creator wants him. And that's an awful death that they had him, that our Creator made him suffer and then die. But what the text does then, it draws everybody from around the world to say, who would do this? Why? It makes them actually turn and try to find out who Jesus is. If you want to learn just who Jesus is, let me see here. But how come that's not? I can't see what's going on here. Here, click on this link here. Now that's our creator's hidden formats. When you click on that, it'll open up a book for you. And what you do is just like maybe the first 12 pages is nothing but titles. Go down, just take the scroll and go all the way down until you start seeing a lot of red text. And that'll be Jesus's teaching. And start from reading just of Jesus. Because in that ordering of Jesus's text, it actually tells you how the 12 apostles or the 12 disciples were found in order. Where if you do right now, look in Matthew, look in Mark, look in Luke, you've got 3 different lists. None of these lists are the same, and yet these guys are supposed to know each other. So if there's big time corruption, go ahead and take a picture of that and say, look, this guy that I just talked to or was chatting with, he showed me this, and that's in your Bible, and these guys didn't even know each other's names. In fact, he found 15 if you add them all up. So, but that link right there will take you to a PDF, and it'll download it for you. And then open it up and just read that. You'll see what I combined all those verses together here will be all right there for you to read. And what I think I did is, like, when this is a comma and then a period, I made it like a long sentence. I put these in order together so you didn't have to read in columns. But the other thing is, this is when Gabriel appears to Joseph, Mary will bear Jesus, and you can see that I'm using all the different books of all the different stories put together to mean what it means. So, or just truthfully tell you about Jesus. And that's very important, because until David's time, when they were announced that a king is going to be born from them, that's going to have a kingdom in heaven, the Jewish people have always been thinking that he's going to be a great ruler on earth and reestablish the nation. But Jesus, when he appears, he does not do that. That's why they reject Jesus. And yet, I argued with 5 leading rabbis in America. I started chatting with one, and this was back in 1997. And like I'm saying, there wasn't even like 20 million web pages up yet. And these guys now are chatting back and forth, and I had this Bible program, so I was showing them verses and leading them all over the text that they couldn't understand. How did I have that much information? Because I was teaching them when they would tell me what this verse, I said, well, this is the verse that you should be using because it teaches more than what you're saying. And then I'd give them the verse. And next thing I know, I've got this email going back and forth, and I'm noticing that the style of writing is different. And I actually counted 5 different styles of writers. So I kind of told them at the end, I said, look, I know I'm talking to 5 of you guys, and I was pretty good at the internet at that time. You could do what is a ping by taking somebody's email address and putting it into a small program and say, where's this coming from? And it would tell me what city they're coming from, except for one of them. And I knew I was talking about from the rabbi from New York City, from Chicago, Dallas, and Los Angeles. Now these guys got to be very high up in the order of the Jewish religion. In fact, if you go look at their Tanakh that they go by now, you'll find that they're praising the female goddess in that text all over the place. So they have a trouble with me. I just know more than what they know. But other than that, let's see. Put that down. Hour and a half. I've been on streaming. Glad you stopped by the way. I like talking about Jesus and explaining everything our Creator's given me to know. And I know I jumped around a lot, but I try to answer you truthfully in all the things that I know. So I just hoping that you send other Muslims here and just say, just go talk to this guy. He'll talk to you and ask your questions. So okay, eating locusts. So this needs to go up. Oh, come on. Forgot to do that. This is going to get added here. Save that. All the winged insects that walk with four are unclean, for they do not eat the green. That's I put in because I just know that comes from the how he divided the meats we eat. But these you can't eat from the winged insects which walk with four, having their feet joined to its legs and jumps, like the locust and grasshopper. Uncovered nakedness. No one will approach any person to uncover their nakedness. They are to be taken before a gathering of their people, to be beaten with a rod. Yeah, this has got so many involved in this. Let's see. Now this one, I want to let them know that it's like this. All these are mentioned together in one group. And that's the end of that group. Okay, and when you reap the harvest from your land, you will not to the very edges. Neither will you gather the glean of your harvest. You will leave them for the needy, and you will not trouble the deaf, nor place a stumbling block before the blind. You will do no injustice, nor be partial, for you are to judge fairly. You will not go about slandering anyone, for you are not to act against them. Nor will you take vengeance, nor bear a grudge against your neighbor. When you enter the land and plant trees for food, you will not rely on its fruit for 3 years. They are not to be eaten by you. This would also help them to have animals around for hunting. You will not cut off the hair of your head, nor your beard, and never make imprints on your body, nor inks. This imprint means branding, tattoos, inking, piercing, like women pierce their ears, pierce their nose. None of that's allowed. When a stranger passes through your land, you will do no wrong to them. You are to keep all my statutes and commandments, and I will not remove you. Now this should be moved, I think. This let me make this 2, 3, 4, 4. Okay. You are to keep all my statutes and commandments, and I will not remove you. This would go way up here. Okay, these are commandments. Okay, real good. Okay, it's already been said once. So it's been said a second time. But the warning about not the statutes, could I just get rid of that text? Because it's already being said. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of it. I know it's been said and better explained. I think I even have like laws and guidances listed there. Refuge city and laws. Yeah, I took them out. I should have left them. Now, this was when they were going into the promised land. There's these refuge cities that they set up like for a court of law. Why they had commanded Moses in their lands. He had commanded Moses in their lands, yes. to select places for your cities for refuge, and they are for those who has killed anyone, willingly or unwillingly, and they may flee there and be judged honestly by searching out the cause. For the cities are to be their refuge from the avenger's hand until their trial. If they wanted to kill, they are to die for they killed, and they will not be put to death. And they will be put to death. But the blood avenger himself, by the blood avenger himself, or stoned to death by those that they lived by. They lived by him. Those that they lived by. I don't think I need this word. But if it was an accident or by something they did without lying in wait, the judgment for the slayer will be taken to their people and told they are innocent. If the manslayer runs to flee, the avenger can kill them. Then the avenger is to offer a ram for their sin offering. Okay. Now, this is the verses that's going to talk about there's no slavery in the land, that seventh year of the land is to rust, and not sowed or pruned. They are also you are also to count for the 7th year, for the Levites are to blow horns in their 7th in your land on the 10th day before the 7th. This is before the 7th year begins, to proclaim a releasing throughout the land from all work prisons. It will be a jubilee for them to return to their own property and return to their families. Everyone will return to the owner their land and do no wrong to it. You will not wrong one another. You are to fear me. The land will not be sold permanently, for the land is mine. You can redeem an Israeli, from a workers who serve you to 6 years, but on our 7th years you'll leave. They will leave to be free without payment. Who injures their father or mother will be stoned to death. Who kidnaps a man, or if they steal them, they will be stoned to death. Or if they sell them. Okay, if man is having an argument and one strikes the other for anything, who struck them will pay for their loss until they are healed. Who struggles or strikes a woman with child so that she has a miscarriage, yet there is no injury to her, they will pay as he judge life for life. There is no injury, they will pay as he judged life for life. Killing, okay, yes. And it wasn't by accident. But if there is no miscarriage, then they will judge for her eye for eye, tooth for tooth. And if an ox kills or gores a male or a female, the ox will be stoned, and its meat will not be eaten, and the owner will go unpunished. And the owner will not be punished. If a male digs a pit and does not have warning, and someone's livestock falls into the pit, the owner of the pit will make good by giving silver to its owner for the livestock. Yeah, I'm just going to get rid of this one. Male finds livestock and slaughters before or sells it. They will pay for the livestock and 1/5 to the owner immediately. Pay for the livestock and 1/5 to the owner immediately. If what they found alive and in their possession, they will pay double. If man let their livestock graze in another's field, they will make good by paying a fee or give produce to them. If someone causes a fire and it breaks out and spreads to someone's field, they'll give them in money or livestock. If man gives their neighbor goods to keep stolen from their home and is caught, they will pay double. If the thief is not caught, then the owner will appear before the judges to determine whether they took the goods. And for the loss of thing, the loss of, and for the loss of that thing, the judges will denounce them, and they will pay half. If a man borrows any animal to do work, and it die or is hurt, or is taken or lost, and no one saw, the borrower will pay if it was stolen or hurt. for they make good. I don't know how to go through and label 600 different. Oh, I'm going to have to decide that later. That's going to take some time. So what am I looking for? I need a note. We have to be up here. I might have to make I think that's one of the toughest things I got to do. For you will not give your daughters to a foreigner's sons, nor will you take their daughters for your sons, for they will not turn yours from following me, or following him. We are to be a righteous nation to our Creator, for he has chosen you to be his people. This has got so many, I don't know how to list them all, so to draw attention to where they're at, there'd be like that. Hands are getting sore, so I'm going to stop for today here, and I will be back